source. Let's see how we get on.
Do you want to start with Sacha Baron Cohen?
Dictator, which I just went to see this morning.
He went to the same school as you and Jason.
He did, that's right, yes, to Habs, yeah, absolutely. Oh, I didn't know him. I mean, I vaguely knew his brother, I think, but later on, after school. Anyway, so, story is, I mean, you'll know this from the posters, of course, the film opened on Wednesday, so many people have seen it already. It's called Dictator. He's a spoof tyrant of Wadia. He is the Admiral General Aladdin, the beloved oppressor of Wadia. He's been developing weapons-grade plutonium, which he laughingly claims is for clean energy purposes. The US threatened to invade, so he has to come to New York to speak to the United Nations. When he's in New York, he gets kidnapped and has his beard shaved off because there's a double of him. So one version of him is walking around New York, fish out of water. Another version of him is pretending to be General Aladdin, who says that he's going to sign a treaty for democracy. Meanwhile, plans are afoot. Here's a clip.
Here's the plan. We're going to take this helicopter tour, fly over the Lancaster to spot its weaknesses. Remember, we're just two ordinary American tourists looking at these sights.
Don't worry, nobody's gonna suspect anything. It's a great plan.
Don't do anything to arouse any suspicions.
Don't worry, I am Wadia's #1 actor.
Oh.
You don't win 4 Wadian Golden Globes for nothing.
Yes, you do, because you gave them to yourself.
My performance in Aladdin, Jones, and the Temple of Doom was outstanding.
I give it thumbs down.
Have you seen You've Got Mail, Bomb?
Yes, I've seen them all. They're all terrible movies. Listen to me, okay? You are a terrible actor. I urge you, right now, keep your performance small and real.
All right, can you get me a cloak?
Why?
Because I think my guy will be wearing a cloak.
No, your guy wears an American flag sweatsuit and a sheriff's badge.
I need the sheriff's badge.
For what? You're the sheriff of American Douchetown.
That's rude.
So here's the thing. I went this morning, wanting to laugh. And I really did want to laugh. And in the end, there's been a lot of discussion about, the politics of the film. In fact, I think there was discussion this morning on a sort of serious news program about whether or not, it's satirising politics and whether it's satirising, Middle East politics and African politics. And there is a thing at the end, in fact, in which there is one speech which is clearly politically satirical and is actually it works quite well. But the main question is it funny? And my feeling about it is this. I did laugh a few times. I counted 5 laughs. 2 of those laughs, it has to be said, were for jokes about how expensive the internet is in hotels, which that may just be a personal thing.
It might be.
And I therefore suffered in the end from a laughter deficiency problem with the film. I was in a cinema that had about 15 other people in it, and they laughed a bit more than me, but not massively more than me. So my general feeling was, despite some of the other reviews that I've read, I don't think it's funny enough. It's basically Crocodile Dundee meets Trading Places with a bit of duck soup, the Marx Brothers thing, and some sort of Borat-light fish out of water stuff. So on the one hand, we've got the character who's had his beard shaved off, therefore nobody recognises him. He's taken in by Anna Ferris, who runs a feminist vegan cooperative. And you've seen all this from the trailer, because actually many of those gags are in the trailer. It opens up by being dedicated to Kim Jong-il, which, of course, actually the best Kim Jong-il jokes were made in Team America, so Ronely, and it's impossible to ever top that kind of gag. The fish out of water gags are very much kind of Borat light. It doesn't have, the edge that Borat had. And I was never a huge fan of Borat itself. And as always happens with these Sacha Baron Cohen movies, and although this is not a faux documentary, it is a drama, is that when the satire runs out, it resorts to toilet humour. I've got nothing against toilet humour, but toilet humour has to work quite hard to be genuinely funny. And it always feels to me like the key those key bath gross out moments in the Sacha Baron Cohen films happen because everything else has kind of ground to a halt. I think, in essence, my problem is that, for me, he is at his funniest when he's contained. Ali G, when it was a contained segment on the Channel 4 programme, there were really, really funny things in it. And then when we got the Ali G in the House movie, it was awful. It was one of the worst films of the year. The Borat gag is funny in small doses, but when stretched out to the length of a movie becomes, the essence of it goes. When you hear him doing some absolutely brilliant, fantastic voiceovers for animated features in which he's working within the constraints of, it's very difficult to work in animated features. Doing voice stuff like that is not easy. And he is, the funniest thing in those movies. And I'm really looking forward to the Freddie Mercury biopic, which is apparently, I think it's a script stage or planning stage at the moment, but we all read that he'd been cast as Freddie Mercury and went, wow, that's a brilliant bit of casting. Because, actually, there are very few people who could pull that off, and he may well be one of them. And I don't doubt that actually he is a talented comedian, but I think that the single gag is wearing kind of thin, and my experience, I felt this about all the feature films, is there's one idea that runs out of steam, and that when that idea runs out of steam, that it just falls down into lowest common denominator humour. I don't have a problem with lowest common denominator humour, except that it needs to be funnier. And if you're swept along on a tidal wave of laughing, you can get away with an awful lot of stuff. But, for example, the gag about the double... There's a scene when the double is first introduced and the double is a complete fool, and the double is in the background, which is pretty much lifted from Woody Allen's Love and Death, in which Napoleon is introduced to his double, and then Napoleon and the double have a fight in the background while something is going on in the front. So there's an awful lot of it that looks like, okay, I have seen a version of that before. And I was thinking about, his cameo in, his supporting role in Hugo, in which actually he's very good because he's clearly a very physical performer. And I just came out of it thinking, it's a 2-3 star movie. It doesn't have enough laughs. It's certainly not the funniest film of the week, actually by quite some measure. And that doesn't mean there's nothing in it that isn't funny, but it means that when you see the trailer, that's the funny. And the rest of it did feel like a lot of padding. And I'm sorry, I know everybody else is kind of sweeping along and saying, hey, it's great. It isn't. At the moment, for me, the key to his best stuff is still that he's contained within something else. And when the project runs, rampant, it just feels terribly baggy to me. But then, hey, I have no sense of humour, apparently.
Is George Galloway in it?
No.
Just thought I'd ask.
Why?
This from Andrew in Falkirk. I saw The Dictator on Thursday, and unlike Borat, which was genuinely funny, The Dictator is just another of Cohen's stereotypical characters with plot taken from just about every Adam Sandler movie of the last decade.
Oh, there we go, fine.
Though there are a couple of good jokes in there, I laughed twice. The delivery and the repetitiveness of them makes for a dull and groan-inducing experience. There's barely enough material here for 45 minutes, let alone 85.
Well, that's almost exactly what I said, so that's
Nick
great.
Barr, BA Film and TV, University of Surrey. Yesterday evening, my wife Elise and I went to see The Dictator premiere. Before it started, Sacha Baron Cohen made a very funny speech as the movie began, and having loved Borat, I was eager to see the film, but having been disappointed by Ali G in the house, I was apprehensive.
Disappointed by Ali G in the house? It was terrible.
To be brief, the film did not disappoint me at all, as the trailer would have us believe it really is just full of hilarious moments. But sorry, I couldn't read that straight. But unlike Borat, you're not constantly cringing and laughing at the same time, because thankfully this is a work of pure fiction, with a great cameo from Megan Fox as herself, and the often hilarious Anna Faris doing an excellent job playing the hairy feminist anti-fascist green cooperative manager that befriends the dictator, and of course Sir Ben Kingsley as the baddie who wants to turn Wadia, is it Wadia or Wadia?
Yeah, either of the ways you said it is fine.
Into a democracy. It really is a hilarious romp of a film. I look forward to hearing the good doctor's verdict. Well, you've heard that. So.
Yeah.
Death to the West, he says.
I do also think, I'm just not entirely sure about the feminist gags. I don't trust them, and I don't think they're funny. That's the biggest problem for me.
Well,
as I said, in the
extent of the feminist gag, the fact that she's is her physical appearance.
Yeah, well, yes, it kind of goes further than that, but it comes down to this stuff needs to be funnier in order to there are areas of the comedy you just go, not really, no.
Dear Mark and Simon, I've just landed from celebrating my 40th birthday in Las Vegas and made my way back home. I'm now going to watch The Dictator to keep myself awake to reduce jet lag possibilities. I look forward to hearing the podcast telling me that I shouldn't have bothered, as it will send me to sleep, which I might already know depending on how enjoyable it is. Keep up the good work, Ian and Milton Keynes.
Okay.
So is this going to be a case of the fact that the Sacha Baron Cohen fans are going to go and see it because he has a reputation and he has a global reputation? Is it going to be winning new fans, or where's it going to be?
I think it's more of the same. I mean, as I said, I'm not a fan. I can't predict how it's going to do, but I don't think it's going to stick. I mean, hey, what do I know? I'm just telling you, I didn't find it anything like funny enough, but I do think that he can be funny when contained.
This is 5 Live, and let's talk 2 days in New York.